listen to podcasts of Joe Walsh and Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on the AM 560 mobile app. Download it today at 560theanswer.com/mobile.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Well, the market went negative for the year yesterday after major sell-off the last couple of days, but
still licking your wounds.
It has not been pleasant. It's time to put your money in cash or boost your holdings in cash for equity investors. So says Goldman Sachs. Not that I listen to Goldman Sachs because I despise them, but
but yet you quote them anyway.
Well, I'm just telling you what a lot of people rely on. They rely on pronouncements from the Goldman Sachses and the Morgan Stanleys of the world. I rely on pronouncements from the Larry Kudlows of the world, who said, cool hand that he is, corrections come and go, but fears of a recession are nonsense. Recession is so far in the distance, I can't see it, said Kudlow. Keep the faith. It's a very strong economy. For more on this and whether or not Mr. Moore agrees with Mr. Kudlow, we're pleased to be joined by CNN chief economist, Wall Street Journal columnist Stephen Moore. Thanks, Steve, for joining us. Appreciate it. Happy Thanksgiving.
Hi, good morning, guys. Happy Thanksgiving. And by the way, how could I possibly contradict the guy who wrote the foreword to my book, Trumponomics? I mean, obviously, I agree with Larry. And look, I think this kind of panic talk that we are hearing lately is so absurd. I mean, the economy, the fundamentals of the U.S. economy are so strong now. You look at construction, you look at manufacturing, you look at industrial production, you look at consumer confidence. I mean, it's hard to point to a single factor that isn't positive about the economy. Why anybody would ever listen to a Goldman Sachs economist? I mean, they've called 8 of the last 2 recessions, right?
Yeah, there you go.
So they're always bearish. But no, I'm pretty confident the futures are up this morning. Look, the high-tech stocks probably ran a bit ahead of themselves. I mean, Apple and Amazon had market caps of $1 trillion, which is, greater than the GDP of most countries. So, there was, and by the way, I think I have to say, just as an aside, I think some of these companies like Google and some of these companies like Facebook that have really taken it on the chin, I think they're being hurt by their political left-wing leanings. I know I don't use Facebook anymore. I try to avoid using Google. They are so left-wing and they have an ideology that is so contrary to my own values. I think that their left-wing corporate culture has come back and bit them right in the ass.
Well, and the other thing too with Facebook specifically is there's tumult in the top ranks. Sheryl Sandberg is on the hot seat right now, the COO who's appeared before Congress, and she, this is great, I love this, New York Marketing University professor described Sheryl Sandberg as having a brand that was being manicured with the same resources and care as the gardens of Tokyo. But that is coming apart now because of admissions about mistakes that were made at Facebook, resignations over those mistakes with respect to Russian propagandizing in their system and the like. And so Facebook's is on shaky ground in terms of executive leadership, so that's not helping the stock price either.
Well, I think that's right, and maybe we're not becoming the United States of Google after all. And there's a lot of competition out there in the high-tech industries, and so. But look, this is the day before Thanksgiving. I'm not going to be bearish. I'm going to be a turkey. I'm going to be very bullish today. I think there's a lot of people make the mistake every time we have one of these corrections in the stock market. People get afraid and they start selling their stocks. This is the last time. This is the last kind of period you want to sell your stocks. You don't want to sell low. You want to sell high. I bought stocks this morning because I think that the prices are bargains. I mean, earnings, to again quote my good friend Larry Kudlow, earnings and profits are the mother's milk of the stock market. And that's the other kind of confounding thing about this sell-off is that earnings have been very good for companies. They're up 20% on average for many of the Fortune 500 companies. So I think there was just kind of a panic. By the way, I agree with Trump that the Fed has acted hastily, that they have taken the punch bowl prematurely away from this party. There is no inflation out there. If you look at the price of oil, you look at the price of commodities, they've been falling, not rising. I think there's this kind of phantom inflation out there. And I believe they believe that growth causes inflation, and they're wrong about that. Growth causes less inflation and more goods and services.
Do you think President Trump and comments that he's made are affecting the Dow, affecting the stock markets in general? I mean, yesterday he made a comment about Saudi Arabia and,
right.
America first. Do you think that had played any part in it?
Well, it's interesting. There's two views of foreign policy, and I'm not a foreign policy expert, but I do have a position on here. There's the idealistic view of the world, that everyone's wonderful and everyone loves America, and that everything's going to be honky dory. And there's the realist view. The realist view is that there are bad people in the world, and there's a lot of bad people in the Middle East. And is this Saudi prince an angel? Hell no, he's not an angel. He's probably a criminal. But you know what? He's probably better than the alternative, right? And a realist looks at the world as it is, not as the way we would want it to be. And Trump is basically saying, look, what are you going to get if you get rid of the prince? You're going to probably get somebody who, this is all about Iran. It's about Israel. It's about maintaining the stability of the Middle East. And I find myself in agreement with Trump. I mean, what are we going to do? Allow the oil price to go up to $80 a barrel, cancel $300 billion of American orders that would put hundreds of thousands of Americans out of work because we don't like the Saudi Arabian prince? I mean, I just think that's a stupid way of looking at the world. And we should look. Donald Trump doesn't have his eyes closed. He's pissed at the Saudi prince. He's like, you idiot! How could you do something that stupid and that immoral? But the world is as it is, and I think we should be realists, not the idealists, because the idealists are the ones who always get us into trouble.
Well, how about being a realist with respect to China? Because more than Trump's pronouncements, his tariff-first geopolitical trade policy, it seems to me, one of the concerns for the jitters on Wall Street.
Yeah, that is true. By the way, Dan, I don't think I'm ever going to be able to persuade you on China, am I?
Well,
look,
not
I
on
think China's
tariffs.
a bad actor. I think that this is the right time to be picking a fight with China. And you're right that this is what's caused the jitters in the stock market. But my opinion is, number one, this is a trade war we have to win, that Trump cannot stand down, that we are in a Cold War with China, and they're a bad actor on the international scene. And number two, if and when Trump gets this trade deal done, Dan, you're going to eat your words, my friend, because the stock market's going to soar like a rocket. We're going to go through Dow 30,000.
Okay, well,
when the deal gets done.
Chop, chop. I'm
when's that
looking
gonna
forward to
happen?
that.
How
Yeah.
long do we have to wait for that?
Well, that's the question, Amy.
Yeah.
I don't know the answer. I don't know if it's coming in 2 months. I think they're meeting later this month. I think there's some negotiations.
End of the month.
To be truthful, I don't think anything's going to come out of that. You're asking me, Amy, when is Beijing going to start to capitulate? Because that's what they're going to have to do. They're going to have to start making some concessions to Trump. And right now, they don't seem in the mode of thinking of doing that. But these tariffs, you're right, Dan, they've hurt us. But, boy, they've killed the Chinese economy. They can't live with these tariffs. They need to have access to America's consumer market. If they come around, by the way, Dan, you tell me what kind of demand that Donald Trump is making of the Chinese that is unreasonable. I mean, we're just saying stop cheating, stop stealing, open up your markets to us like we've opened up, our markets to you. Those seem to be very reasonable demands.
They're reasonable. I just don't think punishing American consumers is the way to try to
that's a fair
agreement
point.
on the demand.
That's a fair point. I'm going to put you down as a unilateral free trader.
I am a unilateral free trader. I am.
Okay.
No question.
Yeah,
I own it.
Okay. Dan and I very seldom disagree, Amy, but this is one that we do. I think we got to use the threat of tariffs to get China to behave itself.
All right. Well, how do we get?
I think Amy has to cast the tie-breaking vote here.
Amy,
I'm going with Dan Proft.
Oh, see more you lose. All right. Hey,
I'm no dummy.
Let me ask you this, Steve. How do we get billionaire hedge funds operators in line? The lack of pushback against somebody like Ray Dalio, who is the founder of Bridgewater, the biggest hedge fund in the world, saying that capitalism doesn't work for the majority of Americans. I'm so sick of people who
sure has worked for him.
Well, exactly. And I'm just tired of it. And then we don't get pushback on CNBC, on Fox Business from the leading lights of economic thought and the conservative free market end. And Ray Dalio, he's talking about the wealth disparity. You can talk about all those things, and there are real issues, and there are ways to address them. Impugning capitalism by saying the capitalism as America practices it, which is not true capitalism, is the problem, rather than government intervention being the problem, and this neo-mercantilism that the left and some on the right want to practice is the problem of government getting involved
you're
in
exactly
markets.
Right. And what is it about
holding
these,
Dalio to account
about these people who've made billions of dollars like George Soros and other hedge fund managers that hate the capitalist system that made the money in the first place? I mean, talk about ingrates. Maybe they should just be thankful for America. And by the way, wages are rising for lower income Americans. Trump's pro-capitalism, pro-America policies are working. So maybe you should just shut up and praise America.
Honestly, I'm just so sick of listening to these people, and
I am too.
On our side, in addition
and by the way, if he cares so much about poor people, why doesn't he, do what the Bible says and give all his money to the poor and shut the heck up?
Well, I don't even care about that. I don't care about the give 99% of your wealth away like Buffett and Gates and the rest of them.
Right.
Impugning the way you got to your position and and burning the bridge behind you is such nonsense. And since you have access to Kudlow, wait a second. You have access to Kudlow. You have access to Trump. I'd like to see President Trump start picking on these billionaire hypocrites like Ray Dalio.
I'm with you on that. And what I was going to say is the best thing to do about hypocrites like him and Soros is just buy them a one-way ticket to Caracas, Venezuela, and see how they like the alternative of capitalism.
There you go. He is Steve Moore, Wall Street Journal columnist, chief economist for CNN. Steve, thanks as always for joining us. Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, guys. Have a great one.
Take care.
Yeah, you too. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer.